I always thought my marriage to Jessica was solid. We had been together for over 8 years, and by all appearances, we were the perfect couple. Friends envied us, often citing our relationship as a model of compatibility. I was the dutiful husband, and she was the loving wife who seemed to have it all together. But something had shifted. I could feel it in the air, like a faint, unsettling hum beneath the surface of our lives. It started with the little things. Jessica became increasingly distant, spending more time on her phone, often texting late into the night. I'd ask her about it, and she would brush me off with a quick, "Just work stuff, babe." At first, I believed her. After all, she was a project manager at a tech firm, and I knew how demanding her job could be. So I tried to be understanding and supportive. I even took on more chores around the house to ease her burden, hoping to show her I was there for her, no matter how busy she was. But then came the late nights. "I'm going out for drinks with the girls," she'd say, dressing up in a way that felt more like a date than a casual night out. I didn't want to be the controlling husband, so I let her go, trying to convince myself that she just needed some time with her friends. Still, every time she walked out the door, a knot twisted tighter in my stomach. One evening, after she had been out for what felt like the 100th time, I decided to check her social media. I'd never been the type to invade her privacy, but my instincts urged me to dig a little deeper. What I found shocked me. Pictures of her at a bar, laughing and leaning in close to a guy I didn't know. The caption read, "Best night out with this handsome devil." My heart sank. Who was that guy? Why hadn't she mentioned him? The next few days were hell. I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I started paying closer attention to her behavior. She seemed preoccupied, often lost in thought. When I asked her about her day, she would give me vague answers, her eyes darting away, like she was trying to hide something. I confronted her one night while we were watching TV. "Jess, is there something you're not telling me? You've been acting weird lately." She looked at me, her expression a mix of surprise and annoyance. "What are you talking about? I'm fine, you're just being paranoid." I wanted so desperately to believe her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was lying. It was as if every time she said the words, "I'm fine," a little part of me convinced myself that it was the opposite, so I started keeping tabs on her. I didn't want to spy on her, but I felt I had no other choice. It was a week later when I finally got irrefutable proof. I had come home early from work one day, hoping to surprise her. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed her car parked outside. The blinds in our living room were tilted just enough for me to see inside. My heart raced as I approached the window. Peering through the gap, I could see Jessica, not alone, but with that guy from the photo. They were sitting on the couch, their bodies leaning into each other, laughing over a bottle of wine. I felt a wave of nausea hit me. I stumbled back, trying to process what I had just seen. The knots in my stomach twisted tighter as panic set in. How could she do this to me? After everything we'd been through, I was supposed to be her best friend, her partner. Instead, I was an unwitting spectator to her betrayal. I couldn't just storm in and confront her right then and there. I needed a plan. I needed to gather my thoughts. So I spent the next few hours pacing around our neighborhood, replaying the scene in my mind over and over again. I thought of all the times I had been there for her, all the little sacrifices I had made to support her career, and yet here she was, betraying my trust right under my nose. I finally decided to confront her. I had to know the truth straight from her mouth. That evening, as she walked in, I could see that same carefree demeanor she had with that guy just hours before. I could feel the anger boiling inside me, but I needed to keep my cool. I had to make her believe it was just a casual conversation. The truth would come out, but only when the time was right, and then I would make her confess. The air felt thick as Jessica walked through the door. She had a bright smile plastered on her face, no doubt still riding high from her day, her betrayal. I tried to mirror her enthusiasm, even though my insides churned with anger and heartbreak. "Hey, babe, how was your day?" she chirped, moving past me toward the kitchen. I took a deep breath, determined to keep my composure. It was all right. Just the usual grind at the office, but you know what? I paused for effect, watching her pour herself a glass of wine. "I think we need to talk." She turned, her smile wavering for just a moment. Talk about what? She asked, eyebrows raised, her body language shifting to one of defensiveness. About us, I said, stepping into her space, my heart racing. I feel like there's something going on with you, a shift, a distance. I just want to understand. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and I could see her calculating her response. What do you mean? I've just been busy with work and busy with your friends too, I get it, I interrupted, feeling the anger bubble just beneath the surface. I know you've been out a lot lately, a bit more than usual. I'm just wondering if I'm missing something here. She crossed her arms, a classic defensive posture, and shot me a look that screamed annoyance. You're being paranoid, Mark. I'm allowed to have my own life outside of this marriage. It doesn't mean I don't love you. I held back a sarcastic retort. The last thing I wanted was to escalate the situation too quickly. I needed her to feel comfortable, to let her guard down. I know that, I care about you, Jess. I miss us, the way things used to be. Her expression softened for just a second, but it quickly returned to feigned indifference. I miss us too, but life gets complicated. We both have our own things going on. I wasn't ready to let her brush me off just yet. Jessica, I saw you today, with another man. You close? Who is he? Her face paled. For a brief moment I caught a flicker of panic in her eyes, but she quickly masked it with her usual bravado. Oh, come on, you can't be serious. That was just a friend from work. We were discussing a project. She let out a scoff, trying to downplay the gravity of the situation. A friend? You're telling me you sit that close to a friend while sipping wine? I kept my tone steady, but inside I was boiling. Why didn't you mention him before? She shook her head, a dramatic roll of her eyes. Because it's nothing. You're making it into something it's not. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I had to do next. Jess, I think you owe me the truth. I'm not angry, I just want to know what's really going on. She hesitated, her bravado cracking for just a moment. What do you want me to say? That I'm cheating on you? Because I'm not. I would never do that to you. You have no idea how much that hurts to hear, I said, my voice calm but firm. But I need to know where we stand. Are you really happy in this marriage? She shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting toward the floor. Of course I am. I just feel like you're suffocating me sometimes. There it was again, the classic deflection. I had to keep pressing, but I needed to be smart about it. What if I told you I knew you were lying, that I knew you were hiding something from me? Her gaze shot back up to meet mine, and I could see the fear flickering in her eyes. What do you mean? I saw you today, Jessica. I know you're not just working on projects with some guy. I can't believe you thought you could hide this from me. The tension hung heavy between us. I could see the gears turning in her mind, trying to figure out her next move. Mark, please don't do this. No, Jess, you don't get to tell me what I can or cannot do anymore. You're the one who made this choice. You owe me the truth. With that, I watched as her mask finally slipped. She broke eye contact, her shoulders slumping. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said softly, almost a whisper. It just did. I felt a rush of emotions, hurt, anger, betrayal, crashing over me like a wave. Did what, Jessica? Have sex with him? Go on dates? What exactly are we talking about here? She stayed silent, her gaze fixed on the floor. I could see the shame creeping into her posture, but that didn't lessen the pain I felt. I needed her to confess. I needed her to understand exactly what she had done to our marriage. I can't believe you would do this to us, I said, my voice breaking slightly. After everything we've been through, did you even think about me, about how this would affect our lives? She finally looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. I messed up, Mark. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. The weight of her words crashed down on me, and I struggled to compose myself. So it's true then, you've been cheating? Yes, she admitted, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. I thought I could manage it, but it spiraled out of control. Her confession stung, and I struggled to process what it all meant. My heart was breaking, but I couldn't let her see that. I needed to gather my thoughts and decide how to move forward. As I stood there, anger and sadness swirling within me, I realized that this was just the beginning. I had to plan my next move. I needed revenge, and I was going to make sure she felt the weight of her betrayal. The confrontation had left me reeling. Jessica's admission hung in the air, a bitter taste that I couldn't shake. I felt like I was floating in a haze, caught between the desire to scream at her and the need to gather my thoughts. As I watched her, the woman I had loved and trusted, I felt a strange mix of pity and disdain. Why Jess? Why him? I asked, my voice low and steady. What did I do wrong? Wasn't I good enough for you? She looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears. It wasn't about you, Mark. I was feeling lost and he just showed me attention. It was a mistake, a big one. A mistake. I echoed, my voice rising. A mistake is forgetting to pick up groceries. This is betrayal, pure and simple. I know, she said, desperation creeping into her tone. It was stupid. I thought it was just a fling. I never meant to hurt you. I couldn't bear to hear her excuses anymore. I turned away, pacing our small living room, feeling as though I was trapped in a nightmare. How did we get to this point? The pictures of her laughing with another man, the love we once cherished, it all felt so distant now. I need some space, I finally said, my voice hoarse. I can't be around you right now. Mark, please don't leave, we can fix this. She pleaded, reaching out for me. I pulled away, the sting of her touch burning like acid. Fix this? How do you propose we fix this? You've shattered my trust and I don't know if I can ever pick up the pieces again. I grabbed my jacket and headed toward the door. I needed to get out to think. I walked aimlessly for a while, my mind racing with thoughts. I felt like a soldier who had just been ambushed, struggling to regain footing on the battlefield. The night air felt cool against my skin, but I couldn't shake the heat of anger that radiated from within me. I walked down the street, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed to get away. After some time, I found myself in a bar across town. The neon lights buzzed overhead as I stepped inside, the ambient noise of laughter and clinking glasses contrasting sharply with the turmoil raging inside me. I sat at the bar, ordering a whiskey, wanting something to numb the pain. As I sipped my drink, I couldn't help but overhear conversations around me. Couples laughing, friends bonding over shared stories. Every sound felt like a dagger to my heart. I pulled out my phone, searching for distractions, but all I could think about was Jessica and that guy. That's when an idea struck me, a plan that would serve as my form of revenge. While she was out with him, I could make her think she was losing me for good. I didn't want to just confront her and walk away. I wanted to make her feel the weight of her betrayal. I texted one of my old friends, Jake, who had a penchant for drama. We hadn't hung out in a while, but I reached out explaining my situation. I told him I needed a favor, and without providing too many details, I asked him to meet me. Jake arrived shortly after, and as we sat together, I laid out my plan. I need you to help me make Jessica think I'm moving on. I want her to feel the same kind of betrayal she put me through. Can you do that? He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. You mean like date someone in front of her? I can help with that, man, but you know this could get messy, right? I don't care, I replied, my voice intense. She needs to understand what she's lost. I want her to regret what she did. Jake nodded, a smirk creeping onto his face. All right, I'm in. Let's show her what it feels like to be on the other side. As we made our plans, I felt a small sense of relief. I was taking control of my life again, and for the first time since the confrontation, I felt empowered. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could dictate how things unfolded from here on out. Over the next few days, I executed my plan carefully. I texted Jessica, letting her know that I needed more time alone to think things through. I told her that I just couldn't handle being around her right now. She responded with a flurry of messages, pleading for me to talk, for us to work on things. But I kept my responses vague, allowing her to wallow in uncertainty. Meanwhile, I set the stage for Jake to meet up with me more frequently. Each time we were out together, I made sure to post pictures on social media, subtly hinting that we were having a blast, laughing, drinking, and appearing carefree. I could almost feel Jessica's eyes on my posts, her heart sinking with every like and comment. I wanted her to see that I was moving on, that I could find happiness without her. I wanted her to realize that her actions had consequences, and I wasn't going to be the man she walked all over anymore. As the days went by, I watched her response unfold. She reached out more often, her texts growing increasingly desperate. I could almost hear her frustration through the screen. She wanted to know what I was doing, who I was with, and why I was pulling away. But I kept my cool. I wanted her to feel the sting, to understand the depth of her betrayal. It was exhilarating, and for the first time since everything had come crashing down, I felt a sense of control returning to my life. And with each passing day, I moved closer to my ultimate goal. a confrontation that would shatter her expectations and lead to her confession. I wanted to make sure she knew precisely what she had lost. As the days turned into a week, I felt a strange mix of empowerment and bitterness. Every time I received a text from Jessica, my heart raced, not from longing or remorse, but from a twisted sense of satisfaction. I had taken control of my narrative, and with each day, I could see the shift in her demeanor. The woman who once seemed so confident was now desperate, almost frantic to understand my actions. It was Friday night when I decided to escalate my plan. Jake and I had been out multiple times, filling our social media feeds with lively pictures and stories that portrayed a blossoming friendship, one that hinted at something more. I could see Jessica's frustration mounting with each post. I wanted to arrange a night out that would really get under her skin. That night, Jake suggested a popular bar downtown known for its vibrant atmosphere. "Let's go all out tonight. I'll bring a girl along, someone who can play along with our little act," he said, a glint of mischief in his eyes. I agreed, eager to play my part. I had already spent hours thinking about how I could orchestrate this evening to inflict maximum emotional damage. We arrived at the bar, the music pulsing around us, and I could feel the excitement in the air. The place was packed, a sea of laughter and chatter. I felt alive, ready to execute my plan. Jake introduced me to Emily, a friend of his from college. She was fun, outgoing, and had a fantastic sense of humor. I explained my situation, and she eagerly agreed to help me out. "Let's have some fun," she said with a smile that made me feel a little more at ease. As the night went on, we laughed and shared stories, drinking and dancing in the crowded bar. I knew Jessica would be watching my social media, so I made sure to post pictures of us together, capturing the energy of the night. I could almost predict her reaction as I posted a photo of me leaning in close to Emily, both of us laughing, drinks in hand. The notifications flooded in, but I focused only on one: Jessica's response. "Are you serious right now?" she texted, and I felt a surge of adrenaline. I smirked, knowing I was executing my plan perfectly. "Just having a good time," I replied. "You should try it sometime." Her responses came in quick succession. "I thought we were trying to work things out. You promised you'd talk to me." I could visualize her panicking, realizing how far I had pulled away. Throughout the night, Jake and I kept the act going. We flirted openly, dancing together, and I made sure to laugh a little louder than necessary. I could see Emily enjoying the attention, and it felt good to be the center of it once again. As the night progressed, I noticed a familiar figure enter the bar. Jessica walked in, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, and I felt a strange satisfaction wash over me. I was ready for this moment. I wanted her to confront me. She approached with hesitance, her footsteps uncertain. "Mark, can we talk?" she said, her voice a mixture of anger and hurt. "Sure, let's talk," I said, motioning for her to join us at the table. Jake grinned and nudged Emily, who played along, acting as though she belonged in this unexpected reunion. "What the hell is going on?" Jessica demanded, her gaze darting between me and Emily. "Who is she?" "Just a friend," I replied nonchalantly, taking a sip of my drink. "We're having a good time." Jessica's face flushed with anger, and I could see the realization sink in. "This is ridiculous, Mark. You're doing this because you cheated, Jess," I interrupted, my voice steady. "You think you can hurt me and then expect me to sit around waiting for you to come back? No, I'm living my life, and you're not going to dictate how I feel anymore." Her eyes widened, betraying the shock she felt. "You're just trying to make me jealous." "Maybe I am," I said, leaning back in my chair. "But you made your choice, remember. I'm just doing what you did to me, but better." The rage in her expression was palpable, but there was also something else. I could see the hurt and regret behind her eyes, and it felt incredibly satisfying. "You're being childish," she spat, crossing her arms tightly. "Childish? Jess, you're the one who decided to sleep with another man. I'm just giving you a taste of what it feels like to be on the receiving end of betrayal," I shot back. Emily chimed in, trying to lighten the mood. "Hey, I'm just here to have a good time, but if the ex wants to join, she's welcome too." Jessica's gaze flicked to Emily, and for a brief moment I could see the absolute fury in her eyes. "This isn't over, Mark," she snapped before turning on her heel and storming out of the bar. I felt a rush of victory, knowing that I had struck a nerve. I turned to Jake and Emily, both of them grinning. "You did it, man. That was intense," Jake said, clapping me on the back. "Yeah, you handled that like a champ," Emily added, her eyes sparkling with excitement. But beneath the surface of that victory, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in my gut. I had played my part well, but at what cost? Was this truly what I wanted? The pain of betrayal had transformed into a different kind of pain as I realized I was losing a part of myself in the process. As the night wore on, I tried to shake off the bittersweet feeling. The thrill of revenge was intoxicating, but deep down, I knew that this wasn't a solution. I had to figure out what I really wanted. I was caught in a dangerous game, and I had to decide whether I was willing to play it to the end or find a different path entirely. The question loomed large in my mind: how far was I willing to go? And what would it take for me to truly heal from this betrayal? I needed to confront those feelings, and soon. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. I replayed the confrontation at the bar repeatedly, each time feeling a mix of triumph and an unsettling emptiness. I had succeeded in making Jessica feel the sting of betrayal, but as I lay in bed at night staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but wonder if I was just perpetuating a cycle of pain. The texts kept coming in from Jessica, each one more frantic than the last. "Can we talk? I need to understand what's happening. Are you really moving on?" I had stalled my responses, allowing the tension to build. Deep down, I wasn't ready to have that conversation, but I knew it was inevitable. That Saturday, I decided to take a long drive to clear my head. I needed to think about my next move. I drove aimlessly, listening to music that reminded me of our happier times. It was painful, but I had to confront the fact that our relationship had changed irrevocably. As I drove, I pulled into a scenic overlook by the lake where Jessica and I had spent many afternoons together. It was a place filled with memories, but now it felt hollow. I stepped out of the car, the cool breeze brushing against my skin, and I took a moment to reflect. What was I really trying to achieve with my revenge? Sure, it felt good to see Jessica squirm, to make her feel the weight of her choices, but at what cost? I realized that while my plan had given me a sense of control, it was also keeping me from healing. I needed to confront my feelings of betrayal, hurt, and anger, not just mask them with revenge. As I stood there, I made a decision. I needed to have one final conversation with Jessica, not to yell or to inflict more pain, but to seek closure. It was time to lay everything on the table and be honest about how I felt. I wanted to understand her motives and, more importantly, to find out if there was any way to rebuild our relationship. With a newfound sense of determination, I returned home and texted Jessica. "Can we talk? Just the two of us." I waited anxiously for her reply. It felt like an eternity, but finally she responded. "Where? When? Let's meet at the overlook by the lake tomorrow morning. I think it's time we have a real conversation." I wrote back, my heart racing as I hit send. She agreed, and the rest of the evening was a blur of nervous anticipation. What would I say? How would I approach her? I kept running through potential scenarios in my mind, trying to prepare for every possible outcome. The next morning, I arrived at the overlook early, needing a moment to gather my thoughts. I watched the sun slowly rise over the lake, the colors blending into a beautiful canvas. It was serene, exactly what I needed this moment to be. Jessica arrived shortly after, hesitating at first before stepping out of her car. She looked different, more vulnerable than I had seen her in a long time. Her eyes were puffy, as if she hadn't slept well. I felt a pang of sympathy, but reminded myself of her betrayal. "Hey," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Hey," I replied, my tone neutral. "Thanks for coming." We stood there for a moment, the silence stretching between us. I could see she was gathering her thoughts, and I was doing the same. Finally, I took a deep breath and decided to speak first. "Jessica, I've thought a lot about what happened between us," I began, my heart beating rapidly. "You hurt me, and I don't think I'll ever fully understand why. I don't want to rehash everything, but I need you to be honest with me." She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I know I messed up, Mark. I've been replaying that night over and over in my mind. It was a stupid mistake, one I deeply regret." "What led you to that?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Was it something I did? Was I not enough for you? No, she exclaimed, shaking her head violently. It wasn't about you. I was going through a rough patch, feeling lost in my own life. I thought having fun would help me escape, but I ended up hurting you instead. I'm so sorry. Hearing her admit that she was lost struck a chord in me. I had felt that same sense of confusion at times, but I had never sought comfort in another person. What did you think would happen? Did you think you could just have a fling and come back to me without any consequences? I was foolish, Mark. I thought I could manage it. I thought you wouldn't find out, she said, her voice breaking. But I was wrong, and I've been suffering because of it. I paused, weighing her words. Part of me wanted to scream, to unleash all my pain and anger, but another part of me just wanted to understand. Do you want us to work through this? I asked, my voice almost a whisper. Jessica looked taken aback, her eyes searching mine for a hint of hope. I want to, but I know it won't be easy. I hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. But I love you, Mark. I want to figure this out. The sincerity in her eyes touched something deep within me. I had spent so much time plotting revenge that I had almost lost sight of the love we once shared. The thought of rebuilding that love was daunting, but it was also tempting. What if we started fresh? I suggested, my heart racing. No more secrets, no more lies. I need to know that I can trust you again. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I promise, I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. I took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. It was a long road ahead, but I was willing to give it a shot. Let's take it one step at a time then. No pressure, just honesty. Jessica smiled faintly, and for the first time in a long time I felt a flicker of hope. We stood by the lake, the sun shining brightly, and I realized that while our path would be challenging, it was also filled with potential for healing. As we left the overlook, I knew that revenge had given me a momentary thrill, but true healing would come from understanding and forgiveness. I was ready to move forward together, and I hoped that love would guide us on this new journey. The road to recovery wasn't easy. In the days following our talk by the lake, Jessica and I faced a mixture of emotions. There were moments of hope, followed by waves of doubt and anger. But we were committed to rebuilding our relationship, and that was a start. We decided to seek couples therapy. It felt like a logical step, one that would help us navigate the complexities of our situation. I had my reservations at first, but as we began to attend sessions together, I found it to be a safe space for both of us to express our feelings. The therapist encouraged open communication, which was something we desperately needed. During our sessions, we dug deep into the roots of our issues. I discovered that Jessica had been feeling overwhelmed with her career and personal life long before the affair. She had let the pressure of her job and the expectations she placed on herself drive her to make a terrible choice. I found myself empathizing with her struggles, recognizing that I had been so focused on my own hurt that I hadn't seen her pain. As we opened up to each other, I felt a gradual shift. The anger that had consumed me began to loosen its grip, replaced with understanding. I realized that while what she did was unforgivable, it was also a symptom of a deeper problem that needed addressing: our lack of communication and connection. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, we sat together on the couch, both emotionally drained. Jessica reached for my hand, her touch gentle and tentative. "I know I hurt you deeply, and I'm so sorry. I want to make this right," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "I want that too," I replied, squeezing her hand. "But it's going to take time. I need to see that you're committed to changing, to working on yourself and our marriage." "I am," she promised. "I've realized that I can't keep running from my problems. I need to face them, and I want to do that with you by my side." Weeks turned into months, and while our journey wasn't without its hurdles, we began to find our rhythm again. We made a conscious effort to prioritize one another. Date nights returned to our routine, filled with laughter and genuine connection. We started exploring new hobbies together, rediscovering the joy we once shared. One evening, as we cooked dinner together, I caught her eye and smiled. "Do you remember when we used to make those ridiculous cooking videos for Instagram?" I asked, laughing at the memory. She grinned back, the warmth in her smile rekindling old feelings. "Oh God, yes. We were terrible at it, but it was so much fun." Maybe we should give it another shot, I suggested playfully. Only if you promise to wear that ridiculous apron again, she teased, and we both burst into laughter. In that moment, I felt the weight of resentment start to lift. The love we shared was still alive beneath the scars, and I began to believe that we could truly move forward. As we continued attending therapy, we both learned to voice our needs and expectations more openly. It was a gradual process, but with each session, we peeled back layers of hurt and misunderstanding. Trust, though still fragile, began to weave itself back into the fabric of our relationship. Eventually, we reached a point where we could talk about the affair openly without it feeling like a landmine ready to explode. You know, this whole thing has taught me a lot about myself, I admitted one night as we lay in bed. I realized how important communication is and how easy it is to let resentment build. I've learned that I can't escape my problems, Jessica confessed. I need to face them, and I need to be honest with you about my struggles. Our discussions became deeper and more meaningful, and I could see the effort she was putting into her own growth. She began to prioritize her mental health, and I was there to support her every step of the way. As we approached the one-year mark since the affair, we decided to take a weekend trip to the mountains, a place we used to visit often. It felt symbolic, returning to a place filled with happy memories, yet acknowledging the new journey we were on together. Sitting outside on the deck of our cabin, looking out over the vast expanse of trees and mountains, I reflected on how far we had come. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across the landscape, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace wash over me. "Mark," Jessica said, breaking into my thoughts. "I know we've had our challenges, and I'm so grateful for your willingness to work through this with me. I want you to know that I'm committed to being the partner you deserve." I turned to her, feeling a swell of emotion. "I appreciate that, Jess. I know it's been a long road, but I'm proud of us. It hasn't been easy, but we've grown together, and that's what matters." She smiled, and for a moment I could see the brightness in her eyes. The love that had been overshadowed by betrayal was slowly returning. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized that while betrayal had nearly torn us apart, it also opened the door to deeper understanding and connection. We had come full circle, and I was determined to cherish this second chance. I took her hand, and we sat in comfortable silence, soaking in the beauty of the moment. We had faced the storm, and together we were stronger for it. Life would throw more challenges our way, but we knew we could navigate them together, united in love and commitment. And in that realization I found hope. Hope for our future, hope for our love, and hope that we would continue to thrive together.